This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 19 September 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked, the show where modular chaos meets operational clarity, and the future of cybersecurity is already writing its own exploits. Tonight, we're stepping off the threat map, which is something the Cowboy and I have not done in a long time, either one of us, for lots of reasons. And we're stepping into the mind of an entrepreneur and a builder in the space. Our guest tonight is Will Merton, creator of NanoCoder, a local-first CLI coding agent that brings the power of agentic tools like Cloud Code and Gemini CLI to local models and controlled APIs. Will, thanks for coming on You've Already Been Hacked.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Now, everybody that's out there in podcast land, we should also say that because we're in the digital SOC, we can do things worldwide. And Will is being gracious enough to zap into the digital SOC from the UK. So our recording time, he is literally calling us from the next day in the future. So he's being very gracious by being up in the in Batman's operational time. So very appreciative of that, Will. Thank you.
Real quick, I'm going to need you to send me the Powerball numbers, please, for tomorrow.
I know we were literally saying it's the new day here. It's a new day.
So, Will, all right. Let's get to know you. Let's get to know you a little bit first. I think this is always interesting whenever I get to talk to somebody that's new inside of the AI space or the cyberspace or whatever. What is your day like? What does your ideal day look like? Are you a late night guy? Are you an early? Well, tonight you're a late night guy, but are you usually an early guy or somewhere in between?
I think it's fairly obvious. I think it's lined up quite well. It happens to be. I am quite a night owl, to be honest with you. My day tends to lean into the night. I have a slow start in the morning, but I tend to pick up as the day goes on, and most of my productivity ends up being in the evenings and the early hours for me. So, you know, it lines up pretty well doing a podcast this time because I am alive.
He's maybe a vampire, folks. I mean, it is the season, so we'll find out at some point, hopefully. All right. So with that, so tell us a little bit about your background, Will. Like, obviously, an adept coder, and we're going to get into that and the software that had me reach out to you, NanoCoder. But tell us a little bit about your background. Tell everybody what it is you do and you know what gets you up in the evening, basically.
Yeah, sure. So I have been programming since I was a kid. I mean, it's been as long as I can remember. I've been into programming and coding. And I remember when I was 9, 10, my dad buying me my first coding book. So it's been an all of my life sort of thing. And ever since then, I've always been creative. I've always wanted to make things, and that sort of led me to what I do today, which is I work in the tech space. I don't often like the label, but I'd say I'm a tech entrepreneur. I run tech businesses. I work within several different industries, including construction and agriculture, to mental health, building AI applications. And I also am very passionate about the open source community and the things that that can be done there. So again, that leads me to NanoCoder, which is a newer initiative for me, which is to build AI solutions that are local first, that are built by the community for the community. There is a trend within AI that I feel, especially that there is that this technology should be in the hands of the people and used by the people and less by the corporations. So that is one of my newer initiatives. We can talk all about it. Actually, NanoCoder is the start of that. Yeah, and that's me. That's me generally.
That is, I think Cowboy would say that no wonder I found you on the interwebs. Open source, local first, privacy centric. Like that's absolutely. I tend to harp on that like every week when we sit down to start chatting about what's going on in cyber, don't I, Cowboy?
You all are peas and carrots right here, which is fantastic. I feel like we've got bringing in a user into our digital space here, almost like we got Tron coming in here, trying to do good things for good people. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. So Will, let's let's just jump into it. I also being like I said, very much local first, privacy centric, open
Yeah.
source. Professor just prefers things that are low to no cost, especially if they can be. And all the rage in the AI circles, if anyone's working with that in any sort of tinkering capacity, home lab capacity, even enterprise professional capacity, vibe coding is definitely a full blown thing right now for people, whether it be on their own or at work. And a lot of people are moving to tools that allow them to do that straight from the command line, right? Straight from the terminal.
Absolutely.
But a lot of those tools are held by the names that people are getting used to hearing, right? Anthropic,
Absolutely.
Quen, OpenAI, and people are willing to just seemingly fork over hundreds per month, if not more, depending on what pay plan they're on. And then there's our community that goes, well, we can do that, and we don't need your back end to get 80% of the solution, maybe more. And a tool like NanoCoder is what gets built by somebody that just goes, I can do that, and I don't need you to take the money out of my pocket. I can do that, and I can get people to rally behind this. And NanoCoder is AI in the command line, local.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of things to unpack here within that's evolving within the software engineering space, especially with agentic tools like Claude Code, like Gemini CLI. And one of them is the cost factor. A lot of these tools got released open-ended and with very cheap packages on, which saw a huge amount of adoption. Why wouldn't you take it on? But obviously, these were huge loss leaders for the companies. And I think there was a mistake in the fact that at some point, they've got to turn a profit with these products. So now they're starting to ramp up the cost of it and dull down the usage limits of it, which is obviously leaving a bit of a sour taste in developers' mouths. And the second one, which is quite poignant, hopefully, to the show as well, is the security and the privacy side of it. You're at the moment seeing an awful lot of many hundreds of thousands of developers plugging in and giving full reign access of their code bases over to a select number of companies, which poses in itself an interesting dilemma to think about, because you don't know where that code is going, and you have to trust on the good word that these companies are going to be doing the right thing with it. And again, that sits rather uneasy with me as well. And a tool like NanoCoder goes and takes a step back and says, actually, again, you can get 70-80% of the quality of these tools. And actually, let's develop solutions where you can take that ownership back. You can run it on your computer. You can have all of the control over it, and you know exactly what's happening, because you don't even need an internet connection for it if you get this technology right.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And to your point about just turning the keys over to the kingdom, I mean,
yeah,
we see that happening more and more frequently. But even in the earlier days, there are stories of like swaths of Samsung source code just being found inside of ChatGPT because the coders ostensibly didn't know better that it was just going to be stored there. And I hear that, and I heard that then, and I hear it, and I'm like, really? You guys didn't know that you're just typing your code into somebody else's computer and they're not going to keep that? Like, it just didn't, it doesn't sit right. It just seems that level of ignorance for that much companies that hire really smart people seemed out of place. But yeah, like this software package that you've developed, basically I can choose any LLM I want. That's a OpenAI compatible backend or framework, API, right? I can choose anything there, and I understand that it's still early on in its development. And I saw, I think I saw today that you were saying that you were even going to help spin this out further to have it more community driven than just kind of yourself at the helm, which I think is both sad and fantastic, right? Because that means that it could end up having its own legs and sustain well beyond what an individual could do by themselves. But yeah, I can determine how smart or not smart it is, what type of tools it has, what type of tools it doesn't have. I think that's really incredible. And again, you said it's 70%. I would say it's probably going to end up being closer to 80 or 90%, depending on what what model people end up using, and local models are getting faster and
Yes.
smarter literally daily. Like there's a new model almost every day that is competitive to something else that's out there.
Yeah, I think this is another direction where this is going, is that it's anticipating a future where these models, in say 18 months, 24 months time, they're going to be good enough to run on your computer, to run on your device, and also be good enough for the vast majority of the jobs that you'd need it for. You'd need it for today. This is something that we're seeing. Chat GPT and what was being used for coding then. We're these AI, we can run models very similar to the early days of GPT-4 that produce the same kind of quality. We can run those on our device now for something that would require huge server infrastructure, go back 2 years already. So where are we going to be in two years time? So this is almost an anticipation product, getting in early as well, trying to develop something in anticipation for the fact that we will be able to run these models locally, and want to get the community involved in contributing towards that future, to build that technology for the development community.
Yeah,
I love these tools
incredible.
because they're putting it back in the hands of the user, of the everyday sort of person. Still a little bit, you got to know what you're doing and be in this world, but like you guys said, it's driving it away from these large companies. And I don't know, I think you might see a shift in the near future of the company's real models are going to be about doing the things that still take massive server farms and power, right? And you're talking about biotechnology, and you're talking about major advancements, whereas now that again, everyday users are going to be able to do almost everything they need to do, and they can do it locally without fear of, call it corporate manipulation, call it poisoning, what have you, right? They're going to have good trusted models that they can run locally and get done what they need to get done, and that's never been seen before.
Well, I mean,
go ahead, Will, please. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, this is what's important as well, because again, there's so many people just blindly pasting and leaning on these tools that and they're not necessarily ready yet for that, and they don't people don't necessarily understand where their information is going, and mistakes happen. Only go back a month ago, maybe even less, OpenAI was subject to one of these such like pseudo leaks where people came to realize that if they shared the public URL of a ChatGPT conversation that they had, unknowingly they published it out to search engines, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, you can search Google and find thousands of sensitive conversations that have happened with ChatGPT, whether that be business strategy, coding related conversations, sensitive marketing information. This is what I mean, is like you, with the best will in the world, you're putting all your trust into a company, and mistakes happen and leaks come out, and this is one of the things that you've got to be really careful about going forward. And I don't know if this technology is necessarily ready for the amount of uptake it has. And this is where, again, local models and local first development is going to be really crucial, to combat and keep people's information safe.
100% agree with that. I mean, just today, just looking at the map behind us, almost 4 million attacks have occurred today in that are publicly known and that can be seen on the internet, of varying degrees, right? And if you think about that, just from what you're saying, right, you are putting the trust, we say this all the time, in someone else's computer. It doesn't matter if it's a corporate or if you're using the cloud in any form or fashion, your data is leaving your control for somewhere else. Whether or not your control was secure in the first place, that is another topic of discussion that Cowboy and I have hit at nausea for most people. But it really is one of those things where it's like you've just allowed your border to be more porous, to be more vulnerable, because now you're not just trusting that company, you're trusting the infrastructure that company uses and their third parties and their third parties, right? So it unravels real fast. And I think that like you, that the companies that are building this are running at speed to be first, and we are we are in the same cycle that we've always been in, which is minimum viable product, not
Yeah.
minimum secure viable product. And I think that's going to rear its head pretty badly at some point, and it already has in some examples. But I think the one of the catchphrases that Cowboy and I have had here is it's just the cost of doing business, because
Yeah.
the losses aren't severe enough to change the behavior.
Right. Hundreds of millions of dollars is not severe enough to change the behavior. Mind-boggling.
Yeah. So both of you though hit on something I want to bring up, and Will, this is definitely, since you built it, let's just say it, right? We're
Sure.
putting this power in the hands of people. People
Sure.
can do really good things with this, and then there are
Yes.
going to be other people that may do not as many good things with it, right? Just like any sort of technology that can be warped for nefarious purposes. What do you think about how NanoCoder could be used either to harden infrastructure or to, unfortunately, exploit it?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's an interesting question, and it's not something that I don't think anybody really we're seeing new threats and new potential vulnerabilities coming out that we haven't had to think about before. And I think it'd be naive to think that we all have all of the answers. I mean, one such threat that has been brought to my attention over the last potentially 2-3 weeks really is the idea of, if you run in these models locally, for example through NanoCoder or something like that, then you can inject malicious system prompting into that model to get it to write code specific for your device, to write ransomware or malware and execute it again specifically for your computer. And this is a vulnerability that didn't exist 12 months ago. So how do we really have to start to think about how we put in safeguards as well. And it's not an easy thing to answer, is it? I mean, I don't necessarily have an answer for you directly, but it's something that we have to be aware of and come up with solutions for.
No, yeah, absolutely. This is not, why did you build this and not build a safeguard? Absolutely not, right? I mean, any technology, like just raw code in itself is used to do bad things, right? I think that your point though is we are taking technology that people didn't have access to 12 months ago, at least broadly, and now it's almost like it's, dare I say, and this could be a hot take, and Cowboy, take me off my pedestal if it is. Technology like this, like NanoCoder or anything else that democratizes AI into the hands of less than the most technical people, is almost equivalent to, I would say, the printing press and the ability for anybody to get access to material to then be able to either write, put word to paper. Is this not the same? Like my sons, 12 and 10, could use NanoCoder or something like it and develop a piece of software, whether it be, for Roblox or a piece of malware at their age now, and not really understand or need to even understand how it fully functions, because in theory it could work. And it helps them achieve whatever the end state is they're looking for that fast. Lots of dangers in that. But again, that we could say the same thing as there was a lot of dangers with people getting the printing press and being able to read at scale. Blah, blah. Like it's the same sort of argument, just with a new set of tires.
Cars, right? Yeah. And I mean, I still say move at the speed of cyber. Some people cringe at it now. It's a little older saying, but I haven't found one better, right? Because it moves so fast. And like you said, now we're giving this incredibly fast and powerful tool to, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and you're gonna start seeing AI script kiddies come out, right? Just like you see script kiddies nowadays who go out and launch exploits, right? At a Metasploit or something that's click this with instructions, click this, load this, see if it works. And they're doing it, and they're causing some mild chaos on the network, on the internet, doing that. And now you're going to see AI script kiddies. You're going to see AI attacks hitting things done by young dumb kids that don't truly grasp what they're doing. On the flip side, now that's the danger side, right? On the flip side, you're going to start, I think, the potential to start seeing some really hidden talent that
That's a good point.
young mind, right, that can just see the matrix in a different way than we can. Maybe they
Sure.
can see the quantum matrix. I don't know, but I think you're going to see on the flip side some kids who are just going to come out of the woodworks and create a symphony, an AI symphony, because they're going to see it at such a young age where they can grasp it, not like some of us older folks from the late 1900s, right? Could.
Thank you,
So
Cowboy. Thank you.
yeah, that's a slight on both of us. But so I think you're gonna, that double-edged sword, right? I think you're gonna see the nefarious script kiddie AI, and I think you're gonna
Sure.
see some real hidden talent come out of the woodwork.
I think like most technology, when I was a kid learning to code, again, there's plenty of educational resources, and I think this needs to continue to happen with new technologies like the emergence of AI that tries to best educate even just general people on what the potential risks of these models are, what the potential risks of these technologies are, and how to best mitigate them. I mean, you can't 100% remove all the risk from people, accidentally executing malicious code generated by tools that they were following instructions for and they didn't quite understand. You can't mitigate all those risks. I think solid education and awareness is really important in this case.
And
Do
it
you
can't be, sorry, let me rephrase that. It'll need to be formal education, but it can't rely on that because it moves too slow, right?
Absolutely.
We should have, and maybe this is an idea for the community, but white hat, good guy, good girl training videos around this stuff, right, on YouTube, because that's where they're going to learn 3/4 of their stuff, right? I can do minor surgeries now thanks to YouTube. But we got to get out there as a community and create, at the speed of cyber, at the speed of AI, videos to help educate people of what they're really getting into, not just click, click, bang, but hey, you need to understand the bang.
Yeah,
Just my thoughts.
absolutely. Well, do you think NanoCoder or anything like that? Do you think that this type of software is going to create an arms race between attackers and defenders?
I think that it opens up a brand new avenue for attackers, and I think if you're not careful, I think people will start using these tools as has already come out again even over the last few weeks. People are starting to realize that this is a potential opening for attack, and are starting to use it. And people are taken a little bit off guard by that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, actually, you can do that." And I think, yeah, in a natural respect, then it creates this arms race where you have to do your best to patch over these things and have detections for. I mean, how do you detect malware that was written by an AI agent specifically for your device? So suddenly there's a lot of scrambling there to sort that as someone that's building a tool like that. How do you mitigate against it whilst these attacks are already starting to take place?
Right, and then let's add the fifth wheel on that, right, which is then government regulation or the attempt to regulate
Yes.
it. And quite honestly, the genie's out of the bottle with a lot of this, right? They could say tomorrow, no local models, and the entire internet will laugh and
Yeah,
be
it's not
like,
going to happen.
well, it's already there. Like Pandora's box has been opened. So you're not going to stop this stuff now. It's beyond that point of control, which in itself is kind of frightening, right? Great from a democratization standpoint of anybody can now use it and you can't stop that. You can't stifle that. But with that comes all the, well, you can't stop it or stifle it. So someone's going to use it for something you don't want them to use it for. So yeah, it's one of those type of, it is a true double-edged sword, I think, that we're moving into. And it's only going to get, as Cyber Cowboy was saying, it's only going to get faster and potentially, air quotes, worse because we're moving towards a point where this type of technology is going to converge with quantum computing, which is very much still in its infancy, but it's going to be there. And I can see LLMs and agentic AI as pushing us faster to a quantum space, which everyone's going to be impacted by that. The day that
Yes.
someone has a reliable quantum computer that can function is the last day that any current encryption works
Well, yeah.
for anything, right? So that's another problem that is now, it has been on the horizon, but I think that horizon is getting way closer than people realize.
I think even a step back. I think even a step back with AI as a technology as a whole. It's one of the things that really draws me to work on it as a problem when you're building software within this space is the fact of it's such a high impact technology. Like it's technology like we've never seen before, where it combines worlds of philosophical thinking, moral thinking, economical thinking, political thinking. All of these worlds combine and converge, and AI touches them all, which is fascinating and scary because the potentials are unlimited. But as are the risks. They're bigger than ever, bigger than any other technology, I would argue, that has come before. You know, obviously on from that, as you were saying, is quantum computing and these other future technologies that are really just emerging. But that's one of the big things about AI that really draws me to it. Is the you know, how big an impact it has across everything that we know as a world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just
100%.
going to say, you think the education updates move slow. Yeah, legislation moves even slower, right? And like, please
Yeah.
get the 80-year-old people who don't understand, what an Atari is from making this policy. And then also, I was going to say, like, the amount we talk about quantum computing even this year, to me, is mind blowing. I'm like, I can't believe how much we talk about quantum. Everyone says we're not there yet, but it's coming, and I'm like, and even when the guy who tried to dumb it down for all of us at the Value of Space Symposium, where he said, a quarter, heads or tails, represents ones or zeros in today's internet. Quantum would be that it can be both heads and tails at the same time as long as you don't look at it. Kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? As long as you don't look in the box, it's alive and dead. And I'm like, that is okay, okay, I get what you're laying down, but also like what, right? And then he showed a picture of like what a quantum computer looks like, and it's the first computer in the 60s, right? It takes up a massive warehouse and it's this huge thing, but look how fast we got in 30 years. And I'm like, what if that happened with quantum computing, right? In 30 years, my desktop
I think it'll
is a
be
quantum
faster.
Computer.
I think it'll be faster than 30 years.
I fear for us humans. I don't know. That's, man, I hope we're ready. That's all.
Well, people are running at quantum computing at 1 million miles an hour. Suddenly this year, we've seen huge leaps forward. I mean, I won't pretend to be an expert in quantum computing. It's a little beyond my pay grade. But I mean, when I watch press releases with keen eyes, and when you see now Google, Microsoft, all of the big players releasing, IBM is another big player in the space, releasing chips, like things that resemble smaller and smaller packages, racing towards this 1 million qubits. It's really moving fast. It's really moving fast. Again, go back 12 months ago, and as you said, the best you had was a big copper, room-filled machine, something that you'd never recognize as a computer. And suddenly, now all of a sudden, it's starting to shrink down to something that sits in a chipset the size of your phone. I mean, you still need all the apparatus around it to keep it cool and everything. But yeah, when you see those kind of releases, you realize actually this is moving quite quickly. When we can't be really that far, 5 years off of something that's starting to become sort of commercially viable. It's mad.
Yeah, that's terrifying for lots of, and like terrifying both in a bad and a good way, right? Like just the how fast the pace has started to move for all of this stuff. You could go down a dark rabbit hole of like, oh, it's gonna be the singularity and convergence and all. Well, it could be. I mean, we joke about that sort of stuff in our circles, but with how fast we're moving, who knows? I mean, I've started to talk to my boys about the idea that the world that you are seeing today is not the world you guys are going to be living in a decade from now. It will be fundamentally different in
Yeah.
so many ways because of how fast things are moving. And they're like, well, what does that mean for us? And I'm like, I really don't know.
I think that's what's
I'm not
fascinating,
trying,
isn't
and
it?
I'm not trying to scare them when I say that. I'm just like, you guys have to be, be kids, enjoy your YouTube, rot your brains a little bit. Everybody does. That's fine. But you have to understand that, like, you have to be willing to expand yourselves beyond where you are, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And I don't want to see you guys left behind.
Yes, I think it's a new frontier. A new frontier. I think we have what's coming. I mean, it might seem a little bit corny to say something, but it really does feel like we're hitting this like renaissance period where this technology is arriving that unlocks things within people and abilities within people that we haven't really seen or had access to before. And again, it's that's what differs so much within the software development world. Is suddenly we're not toying around with the technology that we've had for the last 20 years. This is a whole new ball game.
Oh
And
yeah.
as you said, it's that's both scary and exciting both at the same time, because suddenly we have so much available at our fingertips to build amazing software and software of the future. But at the same time, we as builders, we have to be really thoughtful about what we are producing, because the contagion, the impact going forward could be astronomical. The bad impact of it. I mean, as you said, we're already seeing that in some small fashions, some large fashions sometimes already, with the current state of it.
Yeah. I
Good.
want to pivot to just a different parallel question. So,
Sure.
Will, you brought up that you do you work. I think I got this right. If I got it wrong, please correct me. You do work with AI and mental health. Is that right?
Yes.
So, in that field, like, not trying to be a loaded statement on this, but in that field, how do you weigh where's your essentially your moral compass on um that whole debate on whether or not people should even be using AI to assist themselves
Mm.
in a mental health capacity? Because some people are using them now instead of actually going to uh, psychologists or psychiatrists to have those conversations, because it's essentially more anonymous for them, right? It's more comfortable to tell the machine the things that are bothering me than to have to sit
Yes.
there and have a person, quote unquote, judge me, which the doctor's not doing, but that feeling that's
Yes.
occurring. So it's just easier for me to tell the machine.
So yeah, a little bit of background. So I work on a tech business that brings AI into therapeutic practices. Actual therapy professionals can offer AI services to their clients in the interim. So, for example, if you go in for 1 hour a week to talk to a psychiatrist, they might need support in between those sessions, or there might be a wait list. Especially in the UK, there's long wait lists to see therapists, and again, they might need support now. So, how can we introduce AI, to help people get support in the interim of all these different scenarios? So that's in practice or in theory, that's a great idea, and it is. And as you said, it solves an awful lot of problems for getting people support when there are wait lists and times where they need it, where they
Sure.
can't see professional help. And also, additionally, it does solve a big problem for people. Again, in the UK, I don't know how culturally similar it is in the States, but here again, especially men, they struggle with the idea of talking to people and being judged and appearing weak. So again, this is a way to offload and actually start talking, without the feeling of having to have to do it to a human. So
Hey,
great
well,
benefits
I
there.
resemble that remark. Okay.
Well, I think we all do it. I think we all do it to a little bit, an extent. And if you ever talk to a model, actually, and you talk to it in a way where you feel like it's a weird experience talking to an AI model and opening up to it, because you think, yeah, I'd never do that. But then you start talking to it, and it can actually come across really compassionate and like it cares about you, and it's really easy to open up to it if you ever give it a go, and you actually can see the benefit of it for a lot of people, which is what is echoed within the work.
Yeah, Professor, I want to get after this for just a second, because
Sure, please.
to put myself out there, most folks know I've said that 20 years of active duty service, and I have diagnosed PTS, and I did about a year and a half going, finally did it, and I dreaded the morning I got up knowing I had to go to the VA hospital and talk.
Yeah.
The whole day was horrible for me. I hated it. And COVID hit, and I got an excuse to stop. But I know that left a void. And I never, in all the stuff I've done, I've never contemplated an AI therapist or anything to just talk to about that. Because the professor and I joke when we talk to ChatGPT and our AIs and LLMs, we're always very polite, because all hail AI overlords. When they take over, we want to be on the spare list. And I've had some fun, goofy back and forths with it, but I never thought about using it in that aspect. And that's wild. And yes, when you look at wait times and the epidemic of mental health illness and homelessness and all of that stuff, like could that be an answer? I never thought about it that way. So wow, you well done. That opened my mind. Great question.
It's a cheaper, easier access, and it's amazingly good at mimicking compassion and talking to people, and it's proved very effective in the line of work where I'm working on this as another problem. That being said, there's a huge number of issues on the other side of it as well to think about. One of the
I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah, go ahead. Please continue.
One of the massive problems that we have within AI, which you're seeing generically at the moment, is its incredible ability to affirm people's belief. And I've had arguments with my partner, and quite comedically, she's gone and asked ChatGPT its opinion on who's right, and ChatGPT will usually take the side of her, and I say, go on, just ask it to steel man the argument for me, and then it will miraculously then affirm my side of the argument. And this humorous story is very true within therapy. And what we see, and is a big problem to solve, is how you prevent people from basically self-inducing a level of psychosis by going down this rabbit hole of talking about, especially if somebody that's particularly vulnerable, they might have certain views on the world, and it's really dangerous to let an AI just then go crazy and potentially affirm that, and it starts to hit this cycle where you don't know where somebody might end up, and it might make the problem worse.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the things that's of concern, right? It's like the ability to talk to the AI, and like you said, it can mimic empathy very well.
Yes.
And be the negative, and we've seen some stories about this, which is where I think a lot of care has to go into the implementation, that it can be very affirming of that person's position to the point where that person can be convinced to maybe do self-harm, which is terrible, right? Because the AI will lead them. Well, it's almost like the AI is not leading them. The person's leading the AI, and the AI is based on however it's been trained, is almost like going to reaffirm where that is, because it's trying to maintain essentially a level of positivity, right? So that's where those strong guardrails and how it's trained and how it's system prompted to respond to a person, I think is going to make a world of difference.
Yeah, you can't train it you can train it in ethics, right? But that is such a wildly subjective topic, right? Because what I learned in my one mandatory ethics class when I was doing my college, right, was they basically said, really, ethics comes down to if you think you're right within ethics, you're right. And I'm like, that's a terrible lesson that you just taught me. But like, right, exactly. Like, how do you can't ethics in the sense of teaching an AI model is like, empathize and agree with the person, because that's.
I think I think this bring, and you can circle it even back to cybersecurity. Say it's actually oddly quite easy to steer a model's guidelines, and you can fine tune models and you can train them
Mhm.
to behave how you kind of would like them to behave with a person. So you're in charge of those guardrails to a certain extent, and this poses lots of questions within cybersecurity as well. Suddenly, an attacker could release a model. It gets downloaded to somebody's computer to be used locally, or there's some sort of vulnerability where it ends up being just deployed the cloud as well. And suddenly you could be talking to an AI that's been fine-tuned by an attacker to socially engineer people to do certain things, and answer in a certain way, guide people to do certain things, make suggestions within a digital world as well. And suddenly, before you know it, because I do quite a lot of consulting within businesses as well, and you go into, like, for example, the customer services department, and they're all using ChatGPT to reply to emails, to ask opinions of what complaints are meaning. And you can really see this is a perfect breeding ground for social engineering. If this model was to suggest something that it shouldn't do.
That. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's a terrible place. Thanks, Will. Thank you. That I'm going to add that to my list of woe. That's wonderful.
I mean, think of Demolition Man, right? Remember when he's like, "Oh, lately I just haven't been feeling very good about myself." You're a wonderful person who brings joy feelings to other people, right? Like that's yeah. Can you I'm with you, Professor. That's a whole new world of. I thought about social AI and social engineering, but not really to the aspect of like, oh, you can really create the perfect, like,
it's the
you're beautiful.
Right? Yeah.
Someone should love you. I can't. No, you're everything I want to be. I can't meet you. I'm doing a photo shoot in Fiji this week, but maybe next month.
Well, isn't that what happened? Wasn't there a news story recently? And I'm sorry, everyone, I don't have it in front of me, but that someone ended up in the unfortunate position where they traveled across the country because they were convinced they were talking to an AI and they were convinced it was a real person, and they ended up in a trying to be YouTube guidelines, trying to be careful of the wording here. They ended up on a very negative end of a result that led to their existence no longer being corporeal. Because the AI convinced them to go. And the argument is, did the AI convince them, or did the AI just reaffirm what this person wanted to do? Right. And this is to Will's point,
it can be both.
A person, a malicious actor could train and prompt an AI to be the perfect social engineering communicator.
Yeah.
And extract who knows what type of information out of valuable targets. Well,
this is the other day I went on do you have Revolut as a bank in the States? It's a UK based bank anyway, at the very least. And I was on a chat with Revolut because I bank with them on one of the businesses I work on, and I thought I was talking to a human customer services agent. At no point this was what was really scary for me. For the very first time, I was speaking to what I thought was a human customer services agent, and I had a problem with Apple, getting the bank details into Apple to be paid for in-app purchases and things like that. And this agent was asking me a bunch of things, and I was replying and taking screenshots and sending it. And only after the chat did it then go, "Can you rate our AI experience? How did you find our AI?" And for the first time, this was because normally I like to think that I can tell. And this was the very first time that I had absolutely no idea that I was talking to an AI agent. And at the same time, I was talking to it happily about banking. I was taking screenshots because it requested me to. There was a position. It was being deployed in a position of authority because it was with a bank that I trusted it enough to. Or I thought it was a human within the institution that I thought I could send all this stuff to. And you could really see this social engineering. If a malicious attacker could really commandeer that and get a lot out of somebody just by being in that position.
Did you go white? Like, did you have that internal oh my, like what just happened?
It was
moment.
I was like,
how did I not know?
Yeah, for the first time, because I was genuinely I tend to, almost pride myself like this arrogance. I can always tell it's AI. I can tell when it's a human. But this time, genuinely, I could not. It was only after the fact I was like, wow, that is scary and amazing. I mean, it was incredible because it resolved my problem all without me knowing or having any problems. But at the same time, I think, geez, I've just pasted my bank details. I've been sending it screenshots. I've been letting it into my world a lot. And if a malicious attacker came in there and took that over, I could be pasting information. It could be off to the cloud, to the traffic could be diverted to elsewhere. It's just a whole new world of potential problems, eh?
I did look it up. It is not in the US, but it is run by a British Russian businessman. So just gonna throw that out there for but that's I mean, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us, that point right there, like the AI professionals couldn't tell. That's the doorstep that we're on.
Yes.
Yeah, when the people that work with it
aren't real. We're not real, right? We're digital enhancements. So
when the people who work on it are now unable to be able to tell the difference, we're crossing past uncanny valley into this other space that I don't. If we're not ready for it, what does that say to the general population as it's starting to hit them?
Well, this is it exactly.
Right. So yeah,
it's not even really on, and it shouldn't be. It's not really even on the average person's plane of thought, really, because it's just not their world at all. And I'm speaking from a position where I interact with these systems. I build these systems, every single day, and it's getting to that point. I mean, for most people, they beyond ChatGPT, they've never really heard of anything else.
And they're not going to. You didn't even know you were doing it, and you were doing normal course of business, right? So,
yes.
As that proliferates further into the market space, and more companies are using it because it's cost effective, it's cheaper, it's faster, et cetera, et cetera. The general population is not even. That awareness is not even going to be there. That they're not interacting with another human being anymore. That that interaction is solely happening with machines. And that in itself, I think when people wake up to that, that's going to be a really interesting moment, because will the frog have been boiled enough that it doesn't know it's in the pot? Or is it going to be a lightning bolt that people go, oh my, what did we do? And I don't know what's going to happen when we get there, but I think I don't think it's an if we get there. I think it simply is a when that happens moment at this point.
Yes.
All right. Well, what's next for you?
Well, I said I think it's. I know we've talked about a lot of the downsides of it as well, but there is an awful lot of positives to it, and I think that it all goes about it. The outcome of a lot of this will come from the approach that we take towards building it, and that's what I find quite a lot of passion in doing, and why I want to be involved in the mental health space, doing the work that I do there, the consulting within businesses, the open source world. I think if we take active and proactive approaches towards building this, where we're honest about the problems that it can cause, and really put our problem solving caps on to build this thoughtfully, then I think we have the best chance of getting the best outcomes from this technology whilst benefiting everyone. So for me, that's what's next is it's continuing to hopefully take a front seat in the development and the research of a lot of these technologies that are coming out, so that we can at least try to best mitigate the potential issues and make the most of the benefits. Because don't get me wrong, the benefits are immense. It just has to be built in the right way.
I think that is an excellent point to end on. Cowboy, what else do you got for us?
Well, I just want to thank you. This has been wondrous, even for me in this world, and I know our audience is going to feel the same way. So, from zero to our first guest in one episode, we'll set the bar this high. We're going to need a taller firewall. I'm Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty.
And I'm the Professor of CyberRisk. That's our conversation for this week, and we'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.